everyone. Welcome to this episode of Southern Dirt Motorsports. We're coming to you from Northfield Vineyards in Sparta, Tennessee. They're open 7 days a week. Please come by and say howdy. They've got a lot of good stuff. Today, we've got a man that I used to work with, and I've always had a lot of respect for him, Mr. Lynn Sliger. Lynn, good to see you. So, how you been getting along, Lynn?
Oh, I've been doing pretty good so far. Everything's been working pretty good.
Well, good. So, how many years had you been racing, Lynn?
How many did I race?
Yeah, how many years? Yeah,
I'd say about 20 years and all, somewhere like that. Anyway,
Do you remember what year you started, Lynn?
somewhere I'd say about 1960, somewhere like that. I don't remember exactly. We started at that old track at McMinnville. That was about the only track around here.
one down there
That
by
time.
BFW.
Yeah, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
In my time watching you, you was number 3. Did you start with that number, or was there a number before that? That was
No, I started in the hobby division, and so I had a 48 Ford coupe, and we tore it down and made a car out of it because we had never been racing before. And the number of it was XL1. And the reason I had the XL1 was I couldn't figure out a number, so I said, well, this is a experimental car. I don't know where I can drive or not. So that's X. Oh, my name's Lynn. Okay, well, that's L. So this is the first car I ever had, so it's number 1.
cool.
Now, where did you race that one at?
We raced that at McMinnville, Tennessee, and at Hillham, Tennessee, and once or twice at Burgess Falls. And
Okay, that's where I remember it from, I think, now, since you brought that up.
Did you ever run at Atomic Speedway?
yeah, we run a bunch at Atomic. At one time, I had a track record at Atomic,
Did? Wow.
but I don't know what year that was. But
Many moons
I think
ago.
how long it lasted.
So how did the number 3 come about, Lynn? My first memories of you.
Well, the way the number 3 come about, Houston had a model, and that's an open wheels, you know.
Houston
And
Montgomery.
Houston Montgomery. He didn't have a driver, and we was down at Claude Rice Speedway, and Bobby Blue's car, I was driving for him, it broke down. So then they got me to drive Houston's car, and we won with it. So, you know, he started every time that I didn't have nothing to drive, I was driving for him. So that's the way me and Houston got together.
Now, did you have a golden coupe that I've been talking to some of these boys about?
Yeah.
I think that's where I really knowed you as a threat when you showed up. Went to Sparta Speedway one Sunday afternoon and won your heat and the semi-feature and the feature all. So I know from then on, you know, when you showed up, you was a threat to win.
Well, we tried to be.
How many years did you drive for Houston?
I don't know exactly.
About
Probably 5, 6.
5, 6.
Did you? Is that when you quit racing, Lynn? When you stopped driving for Houston?
Yeah,
or-
well, that was.
So you just stopped.
Well, I was gonna have to. It's hard to drive a truck and race too. So one of the others is gonna have to go. So I said, well, I've been here a long time. I'll guess I'll just have to quit racing and start working.
Yeah. You was always my memories, you was always a threat, every time we saw you at a racetrack, but do you have a favorite track? Which one did you like the best you got around?
Not really a favorite. I guess Atomic Speedway was, at that time, was about the fastest in the country for a while. I know when they first built that thing, they built it at the same, like a Talladega, and that was too steep. You couldn't. You had to really be going to stay up there.
Mm.
And the way it was, when you come around the corner like that, you couldn't see down the straightaway because your car was up there. So if there was a wreck, you was in it. And they flattened it down some after that.
It was probably hard to pass when it was banked like that too.
Oh yeah,
wasn't
it was just when you started, it was one lane,
Yeah.
unless somebody really was slow, you know. Everybody that come up there was from off distance, and they was all good.
You know, it was still pretty much one lane up, probably around maybe even into the 90s. I'd say Tommy probably remembers better than me, but a lot of when we raced up there, a lot of time it was one lane.
I learned a lot there. That was about the fastest track we run on for a while when it first opened.
Did you go there? Did you guys go every week there?
No, we didn't run there every week. We run we really didn't have no home track to run. We just run everywhere, wherever they paid the biggest money.
So you guys never did run for no championships or anything like that. You just went where you wanted to go.
Yeah, we run for some at maybe at Hillham or something like that. But no, we run through the week too. We didn't just run on the weekend. We run wherever there was a race at. If we could get there, we'd go.
Did you win a track championship at Hillham, Lynn?
Yeah, I won that at one time.
At Hillham?
Yeah.
Is that the only one?
I just tell you the truth, I don't remember.
Well, now, did you run at the Upper Cumberland Speedway much?
Yeah, I run some there, but not a whole lot.
So how many different tracks in Putnam County did you run at?
Well, I'd say that every one in Putnam County, I run on them. But, you know, I might run there one week, and I might not be back for 5 or 6. I might be good somewhere else.
Back then, Lynn, how did you know, let's say, like what you're just talking about there, how did you know which track was going to pay the most, or what made your decision of where you was going to go the next week?
Well, Houston would usually make the decision, or the car owner usually make the decision where we was going to go, you know. And so it really didn't make any difference to me. You know, I was wanting to race, and I wanted to race where the money was at. So
a lot of times back then it was, you say 4 nights a week.
We have run at least as many. And men Bobby Blue has run 7.
7 nights in a week. And what about that?
Now he wanted to race, and if there was a track somewhere up there that had a special race, we would go.
So was he racing too, or was you just driving?
He was the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was. He had his track. He run on Speedway. He run that on Saturday night. But then he had cars, and I drove for him. And we was together there for several years. And then from that, me and Houston got together, and Bobby sponsored the car a lot there for us. And he's kind of, you know, was moving out of the racing, and he had a lot to do there. So he owned a Crossville track too at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he wanted to race. There ain't no two ways about that. He just like wore me out.
Did you ever go out of state and race any, or just ride around in Tennessee?
Yeah, we went to the Ohio one time.
Ohio.
Yeah, but we didn't win.
Now, what track did you go to up there?
We went to that El Dorado.
Eldor.
Yeah, Eldor. All right.
Wow.
Yeah, we
Running
went
at
up there one
Eldor.
time, but we didn't.
For the World 100, is that what? That's the biggest race.
I don't know. I don't know. I remember now what it was we went, but really just because it was a famous track and we wanted to go, you know, so we went.
Do you know what year that was, Lynn?
I don't have any idea. We run that number 3 car though.
Oh,
So I was thinking the World 100 started about 1971. Something's right in there. So,
But see, we didn't run up there. That was the only time we ever went. So them boys, they probably had us outclassed anyway.
now I heard you earlier talking about racing up in Albany, Kentucky.
Yeah, that was in the open wheel days, old 33, 34 Fords and stuff like that. When that track there was open, we run all over Kentucky. These towns I done forgot about. There's a track there. We there probably one time or other.
What's the wildest thing you've ever seen back when you was driving, the wrecks or anything?
Well, just tell you the truth, I don't really know.
Uh-huh.
I've some probably at Atomic.
At Atomic. That was the fastest track around at the time,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Well, at Atomic there one time, they had a wreck. I spun it out, my car, and was back facing the traffic, see, but I ain't hit nothing. I'm looking good, you know. I'm thinking, oh, all right. And here comes one wide open and hits me head on.
Ooh. That hurt.
It didn't do the car no good.
I remember at Sparta, you turned over in hot laps, and you got it put back together, and ended up racing that very same night.
Yeah, we done that right there, right in the front straightaway, didn't we?
Yeah, that was I was very young, probably, I don't know, very young, but that's one of my memories that stuck with me.
We done that at Spring City one time. We was going out there to line up for the heat race, and Houston been messing with me out there. He took a spark plug off, and I was complaining about the car not running good. So he put it back on, and so when we get out there to line up, see, I come out of the pits, and I hit it real hard, and she's got a lot more horses than it did have. Rolled that thing over.
Did you guys ever have any fights back in them days?
A few, yeah.
Did you have a certain guy that was a rival? I mean, most of the time you run up front and it's usually somebody, that you compete with. Did you have any certain rivals?
Well, no, not really. We had I guess every time you went, you had some, you just went to win. That's all there was to it. And, of course, there was some tracks, it was pretty rough.
Which one was the roughest?
I'd say there was one over in Kentucky. I forgot what the name of the little town was, but had a pretty good roughness in that time.
Y'all got in a fight in Kentucky?
Well, we wasn't doing, we was in it, but we wasn't doing none of the fighting. But there's a couple of other guys was. But
Can you remember which track y'all ever had a fight at?
Well, in the old days, there's some at Monticello, Kentucky for one.
Pretty much about anywhere you go is a possibility, I guess, wouldn't it?
Well, back in the old days, it was a lot rougher than it was, but they got put the quietus on that. You want to fight, you better just get into wrestling or something, and don't get into the stock cars. They used to say all the time, "Hey, I went to a fight and a stock car race broke out."
Yeah. What about over there at Burgess Falls? It was called Upper Cumberland?
No, that was Burgess Falls.
Oh, it was called Burgess Falls. Did you race quite a bit right there? That'd be close to.
No, I didn't. See, I was driving for Bobby Blue, and if there was some other track where maybe there's more competition or more money or whatever, that's where we went. I went wherever he wanted to go. Sometime I'd come down there. I didn't race at Burgess Falls all the time.
Now, was some of your kin folks the owner there?
Yes, it was. It was my cousin.
And he was a Sliger?
Yeah, he's the one owned it.
That's, some of them was saying the Claude Rice, but I'm thinking the Claude Rice owned Upper Cumberland Speedway.
Yeah, he did.
I think I've seen it on flyers, and
Claude Rice was actually the one. He was in the dozer business. He's the one built Burgess Falls, but he didn't own it.
Okay, that clears up. Now we've been hearing all kind of tales, just talking to different drivers, trying to get them lined up to do these, and it's hard to get in off phone with anybody. You're on there probably an hour just learning all kind of different stuff, and they bring up different memories, but it's been a lot of fun trying to get this thing together and going and whatnot.
Was that the only time you got upside down, Lynn, there at Sparta?
At one time at Spring City, and that was just going out there to line up for the race, and so that put us out. But we did get back to the feature, but I think we run second that night.
So the accident at Atomic, is that probably your memory of the worst one you had, where you were sitting the wrong way?
Worst wreck?
Yeah, the worst wreck.
Yeah, that was when I spun out up there to keep out of a wreck, and I'm sitting there thinking I'd run real good, and then here comes one hits me head on, and puts me right out of business.
It was that way back then, though. Like you say, one lane, and when somebody's sitting there, they usually 2 or 3 pile in there.
Yeah, it was hard to stay out of a wreck at Atomic because the speed you was running and when you started, the length of view where you could see, time you got on your brake, you was already in the wreck. Even though you didn't have nothing to do with it sometimes, if they wasn't opening, you was liable to come up short.
Did you win some feature races at Atomic?
I won a bunch of feature races at Atomic.
Quite a few.
Yeah. I know one time we was running a 100 lap up there, and we was leading the race. They had a wreck, red flag the track. So we sitting out there at the flag stand. You ain't supposed to come out and do nothing to your car. Houston walked over and raised the hood. So they said, you boys are disqualified. And so the crowd raised Cain, and they said, well, okay, we'll let him run. The drivers raised Cain. They said, all right, we'll put him in the back. And the crowd raised Cain. They said, okay, we'll put him back up here. Drivers. So then they come over and they said, tell you what, you boys say you volunteered to go back there, and we'll go that way. So Houston says, well, what do you think? I says, well, we have run 49 laps here. And I said, I was coming up to lap of the second place car. And I said, I believe I can start in the back and come back and win it. And we did.
So you've won a 100 lapper at Atomic?
Oh, I won more than one there.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
I don't know how many I won up there. I won some, lost a bunch too.
Used to be the 2 biggest races in Tennessee was at Atomic, the 100 lappers. They had one in the spring, or probably early spring, I guess, wasn't it, Tony?
About third weekend in March.
And then they had like what they called the Tennessee Dirt Track Championship at the end of the year. Would you have won one of them, maybe, Lynn?
I don't think I ever won no championships at Atomic.
Well, I mean, they called it the Tennessee Dirt Track Championship.
No,
it's just
didn't.
100 lap race.
The Tennessee Dirt Track Championship didn't get started till August about it, and that was 1978 was the first year for that.
Probably the Martin is who owned it when you was racing there, I imagine. Bob Martin.
I know it.
Yeah, Bob won it after going over to Greenback Speedway and seeing how the fans reacted over there, sitting on logs, and that's when he said he's going to go to and build one. He found that property there right off the interstate, and that's how that got it going.
Yeah, it was a whole lot different running at Atomic Speedway than it was at just a regular, I don't know what you call it regular, but local tracks, stuff like that. And the people up there at competition, they was more off from everywhere besides local too, see.
Yeah.
If you look at some of them names, man, they was out in North Carolina and everywhere else.
Lynn, talking about fights and stuff, did anybody ever get aggravated and throw a helmet at you or throw a rock or anything at you?
No, I don't, not as I know of. I'd say that there's several got aggravated. Well, I guess that's happened to everybody.
Oh, yeah. They'd been helmets and everything else thrown out of frustration. Did you have a fire suit or anything you wore back in that day, or was it just kind of street clothes? Or
No, you just wore street clothes.
was it special kind of shoes?
I had a pair of coveralls to keep getting so muddy, so when I have all that dirt, when I got out after the race, I wouldn't look like a mud ball.
Was there any kind of special shoe that you wore? Them floorboards had to get hot back in them days.
I just wore a pair of regular tennis shoes or something.
Oh,
I know I blowed a clutch or pressure plate up across for one time, and it come right through the floorboard and come right up and cut my shoe on the inside of my foot, and just made a little red mark up my foot.
You're lucky.
You ain't a kid.
You lucky.
Did you ever get injured, Lynn?
Not just side, like get a hard lick, and kind of
Knock the breath out of you?
Well, like one time back in Manville, and I was driving the Luna Boys car, that coupe they had. I was driving it. We had a wreck down there. I had the battery inside the car, and it busted that battery in them fumes, and it got up under my helmet there, kind of got you woozy a little, you know. I mean, nothing real bad or nothing like that. But before they got me out of there, why, you know, the fumes got in the car, hits that steel, something like that. That's about, and then now that up there at Atomic, now that I mean, it shook me up a little. It didn't knock me out or nothing, but or do any damage, but
Got your attention.
yeah, I got my attention.
Now they had built a new McMinnville Speedway, they called it, over by the airport. Did you race there or just the one by the VFW?
The only one I raced McMinnville was the old one down there at the
Down there beside the river, or
yeah.
VFW as they call it.
That's the only one that McMinnville ever run at.
You know, some paperwork I seen this week at Christie Lower Ranch Styles sent me that trying to figure out when the new one opened. I think it mentioned in some of them articles 1973, the one out by the airport. Then the one by the river there in town closed 1967. So.
Well, see, we quit running McMinnville there when Hillham opened, and all the hobby boys started running there because it was supposed to be a stock class, see.
Uh-huh.
McMinnville was running the real high-performance cars at the time.
What's the one thing you miss about racing? And what would you like to see changed in racing today?
Well, actually, I don't know. I don't really know what all the rules is right now because, see, it's been a long time since I fooled around. When we started, to start with, see, there was a lot, all you had, but you didn't have no rules on your motor. The only thing you had, you could run anything you could put in that thing as long as you just had one carburetor and a battery ignition. You didn't want to run you a Magneto or nothing like that.
Huh.
And you had to run pump gas. Cubic inch, didn't matter.
You
No
could
weight
make it,
limit.
If you could make it fit, it worked.
That's right. As long as if you had a Chevrolet, you had to run a Chevrolet motor.
Ah,
If you run a Ford, you had to run a Ford motor. That was one rule, but the rules on that first 3 car we had, cubic inch didn't matter.
Now, what kind of money was you paid back in those days?
Well, probably I'd say $150, $200, 3. That'd be big money. But now when Atomic opened up, they'd pay like $1,000, $1,200, stuff like that. See, that made a difference.
what's the most you ever won in the night, money wise, back in the day?
At one race,
Yeah,
I'd say about $1,200 for first place.
and that's back in $1,200 would buy something.
Yeah, that was, we was running the Camaro. We went to, I don't even remember what the track was now, but we got there a whole bunch of these big fancy haulers. We pull in with a pickup truck and an open trailer. And I look at Houston and I say, we're at the wrong place, Hoss. He said, you going to give up and we ain't even got off the trailer? So we get out there, we win the race. We get fast time and everything. Houston said, see there? Them boys spent all their money on their trucks.
How long did you say? How long did you say you drove for Houston?
I'd say 5, 6 years, 4 or 5, something like that.
Was there any specific reason that you decided to quit driving for Houston? Just
Other than that, I couldn't do all the racing we wanted to do and still work too, or drive a truck over it, so I had to make a decision.
Uh-huh.
So I said, well, I'd been racing for years, so I said, well, I think I'll quit this season. So
Was he already racing before you started driving for him, Lynn?
he just started. Houston hadn't been racing long. He'd just got into business.
So you was the first driver that
Actually,
worked
I
with
was the second
Houston?
driver. He had Jake Baker drove for him for a while, and I don't know who else drove for him. But then when we got started there, he got to going wherever we'd go, and I'd run his car in the slow races, run Bob Blues, and the other one I'd run every race. And
Now that Baker you talked about, I think I remember him in a 34.
yeah,
But-
Jake drove that. Yeah, that was owned by the Thompson Manufacturer. All good.
Like I say, some of them I can remember real good, and then, you start mentioning names and the car numbers, and then the memories come back, and so.
I don't know how long he drove that car, but he did drive it some. But I don't know what length of time it was.
Well, I noticed on them the papers that Christie sent me on Earl Oil Ranch. Of course, they had a lot of different drivers. Looked like they changed numbers, quite often. I might remember a certain number. No, they got pictures of them holding a flag in different numbers. So evidently they must change quite often. Maybe kind of like you were talking about there. You drove in the slow class for one owner and in the fast class with another owner.
Well, Houston always all the number he ever run was number 3. That's the number he said. And had one guy not long ago. He was looking at the picture of number 3, and he said, "Running Earnhardt's number, huh?" I said, "Back in them days, buddy, Earnhardt wasn't in the business."
Not even the dad of it, Dale Earnhardt.
Actually, that wasn't his number. It was number 8.
Uh-huh.
That was actually Richard Childress. Yeah.
Papa Earnhardt was number 3.
Lonas, did you drive for them some? My uncles and.
Yeah, I drove for Charles and Les and them we'd run one season down at McMinnville. BK had started. I can't think of the guy's name. I don't even remember what number car it was, but I remember now it was painted bright yellow, and he had a car lot out there, Sparta, whatever his name was. So. But BK drove for him there I know he drove for one season, and I drove for Charles now for one season.
What number did you guys have on the car?
On the Charles and Luna's. 312.
312.
Yeah. I think it was a maroon. I'm not sure. It was a coupe. That's the open wheel. It was an old coupe. What was? We run I believe we run a 312 Ford in it. That was when they was running the overhead valves in the old model open wheel cars.
Well, Lynn, I think that we're going to wrap it up here. Appreciate you coming out, and would you be willing to come back again? Visit?
Yeah, we'll try it.
All righty.
That way you can think, what we're going to question the next time. And come up with some more stories and maybe see some more pictures that come about. But I think you appreciate you coming out, Lynn.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much, Lynn.
And we're going to wrap it up here. This is Steve Winstead for my co-host Tommy Guy and Mike Luna. Appreciate everybody tuning in, joining us today. Again, we're at Northfield Vineyards in Sparta, Tennessee. And if anybody got any questions or comments or suggestions, please feel free to email us at southerndirtmotorsports@gmail.com. Thank you.